Hey everybody, it's Ron, and I want to tell you a story about business and how that story changed everything. It's 2003, and you are an emperor penguin. You're waddling across the Adelie coast of Antarctica, doing what emperor penguins do, surviving temperatures that drop to 60 below zero, navigating 70-mile treks across the ice shelf, and minding your own business. Somewhere near the huddle, you notice a strange contraption on a tripod, operated by a small group of humans in extremely large coats, who appear to have been standing in the same spot for several months. You regard them briefly, they seem harmless. You waddle on. What you cannot know as that emperor penguin standing there on the ice is that those frozen Frenchmen and their camera equipment are recording 13 months of footage that a director named Lou Jacquet will shape into a film called La Marche de l'Empire. You also don't know that a company will buy the American rights to that film, replace the narration with the voice of Morgan Freeman, reframe the entire story from a scientific survey of your species into a meditation on family and survival, and release it in the United States on exactly 4 movie screens. You don't know any of that. You have a 70-mile walk ahead of you and a fish to find. So how does a French nature film, made for $8 million and released on 4 screens, become one of the highest-grossing documentaries in American history? How does a science film about Antarctic penguins get repositioned as an emotional story about love and family, find the exact audience that will cry at it and tell everyone they know, and then watch that audience do the marketing work that no advertising budget could have bought? And how did all of that accelerate on July 22, 2005, when a small but very specific group of moviegoers walked into art house theaters across the United States, and a platform release built around the right audience rather than the biggest audience became the only strategy that could have worked? From Business Basics, I'm Ron Trucks, and this is Business History, the daily podcast where we explain the stories that changed business forever. Every date on the calendar has a story where business reshaped the world. Today, July 22nd, that story takes us to 2005, March of the Penguins. Lou Jacquet spent 13 months in Antarctica with 2 cinematographers, filming emperor penguins in temperatures that regularly hit 60 degrees below zero. The cameras ran on 35mm film because digital equipment failed in the cold. Film magazines had to be loaded by hand inside insulated bags because opening them outside would have destroyed the footage. The result was La Marche de l'Empire, a French nature documentary that opened in Paris, France in January 2005 to strong reviews and solid box office. In its original form, it was a science documentary, measured, educational, built around the biology and survival patterns of emperor penguins on the Adelie coast. It did well in France. It was not obviously a $127 million property, though. National Geographic Feature Films and Warner Independent Pictures acquired the American distribution rights, and the first decision they made was to treat it as a different film. The French narration came out, Morgan Freeman came in. The framing shifted from scientific observation to emotional storytelling, a narrative about survival and loyalty and family set against the most extreme environment on Earth. The penguins didn't change. The audience being targeted did. That repositioning was itself a target marketing decision, and it was the foundation everything else was built on. The French original spoke to natural science audiences. The American version spoke to people who would respond emotionally to a story about parents protecting their young in an impossible condition, who would leave the theater wanting to tell someone what they had just seen. The distributors weren't asking who watches nature documentaries. They were asking who will cry at this and who do they talk to afterward. The answer to that question determined everything that followed. The film opened in the United States on June 24, 2005 on a handful of screens, all of them art house and independent theaters chosen specifically because of the audience they already had. Older, educated, culturally engaged movie viewers who read reviews, trusted recommendations, and talked about what they watched. This was not a wide release being held back. It was a precision deployment into a target market, and the target market responded exactly as intended. Word of mouth moved fast, and it moved outward. Reviews were strong. The per-screen averages were the highest of any film playing that week, and the people who saw it in those first few weeks were doing exactly what the distributors needed them to do, telling everyone they knew. On this date, July 22nd in 2005, Warner Independent Pictures and National Geographic Feature Films expanded the release significantly, moving the film into a much broader theatrical footprint. By late July, it was on over 130 screens. By midsummer, it had crossed 800. By the end of its theatrical run, it had reached more than 2,500 screens across the country. That expansion pattern is the mechanism we're looking at in this story. A wide release on opening weekend puts the marketing burden on the studio. A platform release starting with the right audience puts the marketing burden on the audience itself, which only works if you've correctly identified who that audience is and what they will do after they leave the theater. The distributors had. The people who saw March of the Penguins in the first 3 weeks were not a representative sample of the eventual audience. They were the people most likely to become the unpaid, highly motivated marketing department for everyone who came after them. Target marketing doesn't end at the target. Done right, the target is just the beginning. March of the Penguins earned $77 million domestically in the U.S. and $127 million worldwide on a production budget of approximately $8 million. It won the Academy Award for Best Documentary Feature at the 2006 ceremony, and it did something that the box office numbers and the award together don't fully capture. It demonstrated that a nature documentary could be a theatrical event rather than a television program. And it demonstrated it convincingly enough that the rest of the industry had to respond. The wave that followed was direct and documentable. Distributors and studios that had previously treated nature content as a cable property began developing theatrical releases. Werner Herzog's Encounter at the End of the World, Disney Nature as a dedicated theatrical documentary label, a sustained run of nature films that played in multiplexes rather than on cable networks. All of it traces back to what happened when a Penguin film found the right 4 screens first and let the audience do the rest of the work. The deeper lesson doesn't require a documentary to apply. It's about resisting the instinct to reach everyone at once in favor of reaching the right people first, deeply enough that they carry the story outward for you. National Geographic didn't have the marketing budget of a major studio. They had a specific audience, a film that would resonate with that audience, and the discipline to start there and wait. The emperor penguins waddle 70 miles across the ice shelf every year to reach the one place where conditions are right for what they need to do. It's not the shortest route, it's the only route that works. I'm Ron Trucks, and this is Business History, the podcast that finds the turning points behind the headlines. To hear more stories like this, follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen. And if you're enjoying the stories, don't forget to subscribe and leave a quick review. It helps more people find the story behind the business. And if you want to actually understand business better without the fluff or the buzzwords or the MBA language, start by visiting us at businessdailypodcast.com.